Some friends vanish with time, others return when you least expect them, sometimes in the crash of metal and memory. What if the person you once saved from failure becomes the billionaire standing before your broken life? Read on, like and subscribe. The shriek of metal against metal ripped through the morning calm like a thunderclap sent by fate itself. Tires skidded, a shout, a gasp, then silence. Market traders turned, commuters froze. Even the sky, gray with the weight of unshed rain, seemed to pause as the yellow Kike ground to a halt. Its front lodged violently into the glistening black grille of a Mercedes-Benz GLE 63 AMG, its emblem cracked but still proudly upright. The Keke driver, a lean, dust-worn man in his late 30s, scrambled out. His hands trembled. His heart was galloping, not from injury, but from fear. One look at the car he'd hit, and he already knew this mistake was going to cost more than he could ever repay in this lifetime. He dropped to his knees without even seeing the face behind the tinted windows. "God, I beg. I'm finished. But let's rewind. Let's take you back, not to the crash, but to the classroom, years ago, where it all began. Port Harcourt, Nigeria, 2005. The chalkboard was barely visible through the dust particles floating in the humid classroom air. Fans whirred lazily overhead, doing more groaning than cooling. In the second row sat Andrew, scruffy, eager-eyed, always with a biro between his fingers and a notebook full of scribbles. Next to him slouched Arthur, tall, rich, and clueless. Arthur had a father in the oil business and a bank account fat enough to buy exam papers, but even wealth couldn't make WAEC simple. His brain simply didn't do math, or physics, or literature. But Andrew was brilliant, and he helped. Every exam season Andrew tutored Arthur, explained equations with patience, hid cheat sheets in Arthur's socks. When Arthur panicked, Andrew stayed calm. When Arthur wanted to quit, Andrew pushed him. "Guy, we graduate together or we no graduate at all," Andrew would say, thumping his chest. And they did. Together. But after graduation, life took them in opposite directions. Arthur flew to the UK for university. Andrew? He stayed. His father's death, followed by his mother's illness, kept him grounded in the harsh realities of a system that didn't reward the smart, only the lucky. They hadn't spoken since. Back to present day. The door of the Mercedes-Benz opened with a smooth hydraulic hiss. A black shoe touched the road, then another, and out stepped a man in a custom-cut suit, designer sunglasses, and a look of calm confusion. He surveyed the damage. His pristine bumper caved in by what looked like a mechanical mosquito. Then, his eyes dropped to the man still on his knees, covered in dust, breathing heavily. "Driver, what were you thinking?" he asked, voice calm but clipped. Andrew didn't lift his head. "Please, sir, na mistake. My brake fail. I no see road well. A beg. No involve police. I no even get anything for hand." Arthur stared at the man longer. There was something familiar. The eyes, maybe, or the voice. Something pulled at the edges of his memory like a forgotten song. Then Andrew looked up. Their eyes locked. Time didn't just stop, it crashed. Arthur's mouth opened. His brows arched. "Andrew?" Andrew blinked. He stared harder, squinting past his fear. "Arthur." A gust of wind blew. A piece of paper fluttered down the road. Somewhere, a bus honked. But all that existed in that moment were the two of them, face to face, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, surrounded by the wreckage of fate's latest irony. "Wait. Is this real?" Arthur stepped forward. "Andrew Okechukwu? You're... What? You drive Keke now?" Andrew stood, ashamed but also stunned. "Arthur? Arthur Benson? You are the owner of this monster of a car?" Arthur let out a laugh, sharp, disbelieving, half sad. Bro, you taught me everything I know. I wouldn't have graduated without you. Andrew forced a small smile, still unable to believe it. You're a billionaire now, he said flatly. Arthur nodded, slipping off his sunglasses. I run AB Logistics, oil, finance, a few tech startups. Life's been generous. Andrew's shoulders slumped. His clothes felt heavier. Arthur stepped closer, suddenly noticing the condition of the keke. Rusted panels, torn seats, and that tired look in Andrew's eyes. Man, this can't be your only hustle. What happened? Andrew sighed. Long story. But after my mum died, I did all kinds of work. Teaching, loading at the park. I only drive keke now to feed my kids. Arthur looked at him, then at the dent on his car. You helped me become who I am, Andrew, he said, voice low. And here I am, about to yell at you over a bumper.
Andrew shook his head. Forget bumper. This now millionaire damage. I know fit pay even if I sell myself. Arthur looked him straight in the eyes. You won't pay a kobo. Andrew blinked. You won't pay, in fact. Arthur glanced around. A small crowd was forming. He waved them off. In fact, you're going to come work for me. Andrew's mouth hung open. What? Arthur pulled out his phone and dialed. James. Yes. Get my driver to bring the Bentley. The Benz is parked. Oh, and find a place for Andrew Okichukwu in our management training program. No. Scratch that, just put him on direct mentorship. Yes. Today. He hung up and turned back to Andrew. You saved me back then. Now it's my turn. Andrew stood frozen. He looked at the shattered glass. Then at the car. Then at Arthur. And just like that, in the midst of an accident, Andrew's life pivoted. Not with warning, not with permission, but with the force of destiny coming full circle, metal crashing into mercy. Title: Fate's Collision. If you enjoy the story, like and subscribe. The Bentley that arrived 10 minutes later glided over potholes like they didn't exist. It was the kind of car that made people whisper, pull out their phones and guess the net worth of the man inside. And now Andrew, former Keek driver, local tutor, and father of 3, was standing in front of it, lost in a reality that still felt like a dream wearing perfume. Arthur opened the back door himself. Enter, Ogre Andrew. No worry, this one no be exam. He grinned. Andrew hesitated. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to do next. He wiped his hands on his trousers, trying not to smear the leather. Arthur, I still day confuse. Are you really serious about everything you said? Arthur leaned in close. You think I forget how you carried me through physics? That WAEC day we nearly got caught with the answers you wrote on your thigh? Guy, I owe you. They both burst into laughter. It wasn't the laugh of strangers, it was that strange, heart-squeezing sound of 2 boys remembering who they used to be, right before life decided to divide them. Now, Arthur added, let's go get you cleaned up. You're not entering my company looking like you just survived a Mad Max movie. 30 minutes later. Lekki Phase 1. The gate to Arthur's compound slid open like the mouth of a sleeping beast. Andrew's jaw dropped. The mansion inside looked like it had been stolen from a Dubai magazine. Glass walls, marble fountains, and a sculpture that looked too expensive to touch, much less understand. Arthur, you day live here? Arthur chuckled. This is just home base. We move around a lot. Inside, the floors were so white they could blind you. Servants in crisp uniforms nodded as they passed. Everything smelled like lemongrass and money. The silence was powerful. It was the kind of silence money buys to protect its thoughts. Arthur took Andrew upstairs and handed him a towel. a fresh set of clothes, and a simple instruction. Freshen up, eat, then we talk. The bathroom was bigger than Andrew's entire one-room apartment. It had a TV in the mirror. The toilet had buttons. The water pressure nearly knocked him off his feet. But as he stared at himself in the mirror, clean-shaven, shirt tucked in, eyes clearer than they'd been in years, Andrew felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. 2 hours later, a B Logistics headquarters, a black Range Rover, drove them into a towering glass structure in Victoria Island. AB Logistics. The building shimmered like success under the sun. Inside, the lobby was an ocean of polished floors, scented air, and people in suits walking like they were late for $1 million meeting. As they entered, everyone turned. The security guard saluted. The receptionist smiled like she'd won the lottery. Arthur raised a hand. Everyone, this is Mr. Andrew Okichukwu. My friend. He'll be working directly with me from today. Andrew's throat tightened. But sir, the receptionist began, eyes scanning Andrew's unfamiliar face. Arthur cut in. No buts. Draft his ID. He's under executive mentorship. Give him full access. The message was clear. In a place where everyone needed permission, Andrew had just been handed a master key. Arthur's office was on the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. There were awards on the walls, framed newspaper clippings, and a photo of Arthur shaking hands with the vice president. He poured 2 glasses of wine. Andrew hesitated. I haven't had wine since my wedding. And that one was from Sachet. Arthur laughed. You'll get used to better things. Then he sat, his tone sobering. I meant what I said earlier. You were my anchor in school. I was a mess, lazy, proud, stupid even. But you never judged me. You just helped. Why? Andrew leaned back, thoughtful. Because I knew you had something in you. Not book sense, but vision. You just needed a chance. Arthur nodded. Now it's your turn. Andrew looked around the office, the glass walls, the cityscape. His chest swelled with both gratitude and fear. But Arthur, I don't even know how to use a computer well. Arthur smiled. Neither did I when I started. That's why I have people who'll train you. You're not here to push paper. You're here to grow. He opened a drawer and handed Andrew a crisp white envelope. Andrew opened it. His hands shook again, but this time from joy. Inside was a bank draft. 5 million. Advance salary. Settle the kids. Move out of that slum. Fix your mum's grave if you want. The rest? Save it. From now on, you're not just surviving. You're building. Andrew blinked hard, but the tears fell anyway. I don't know how to thank you. Arthur stood and pulled him into a brotherly hug. You already did. 18 years ago. When you didn't let me fail. That night, a Jegunal. When Andrew returned home, his kids ran to him like he'd returned from war. His wife stared at the bags in his hand, the branded wristwatch on his wrist. Andrew, what happened? Where did you go? He knelt before her and smiled. Hope happened. Then he told her everything. She listened in disbelief, her hands over her mouth, tears forming as she hugged him tightly. And as he looked around the small, crumbling room they called home, Andrew made a quiet vow. I will never let my children live in lack again. Andrew enters the world of suits, boardrooms, and power, but not everyone in Arthur's empire is happy about it. A storm is brewing, and not everyone believes a kick driver belongs at the table. How will Andrew prove himself in a world built on pedigree and politics? When destiny opens a door, there are always those who try to shut it. But what happens when a man with nothing to lose walks boldly into a room full of sharks? Keep reading as Andrew steps into a world that never expected him. and leaves with something no money can buy: respect. 3 weeks later, a B Logistics executive conference room. The mahogany table was long enough to host a United Nations summit. 12 directors sat around it, polished, proud, powerful. The air reeked of imported cologne, espresso, and tension. At the far end sat Arthur Benson, CEO and billionaire, calm, focused. To his right, a man with slick hair and a silver tie cleared his throat. Charles Eddoff, head of operations. The kind of man who smiled with his mouth, but never with his eyes. And, with all due respect, Arthur, he began, adjusting his designer cufflinks. We're all wondering how an unqualified kick driver ended up in a strategy meeting with senior executives. The room went still. Eyes darted toward Andrew. He was seated quietly, wearing a modest grey suit, his first real one, gifted by Arthur's tailor. A notepad lay in front of him, filled with scribbles and observations. His tie was slightly crooked, his shoes not as shiny, but his eyes, alert, humble, burning with purpose. Arthur leaned forward slowly. Charles, are you asking that because you believe in merit, or because you're threatened by a man who knows the value of hard work? A soft murmur rippled across the table. I believe in qualifications, Charles replied coolly. Experience. Business sense. This is a logistics empire, not a charity. Arthur smiled. Andrew helped me build the foundation of my empire. Just not with buildings. With brains. Another director spoke up. A woman named Ifeoma, head of HR. Let's not forget, Arthur. People are watching. Investors. Press. It may look unconventional. Arthur nodded, then looked at Andrew. Would you like to speak? Andrew froze. All eyes turned. This was it, the test he didn't see coming. He stood slowly, cleared his throat. I won't pretend to be what I'm not, he began. His voice was soft but sure. I didn't come from money. I didn't study abroad. I've never worn a 10,000 naira tie. But I understand struggle. I understand timing. And I understand movement. Which, if you think about it, is exactly what logistics is. Some blinked. Some scoffed. But Andrew continued. You see, when you drive a kick in Lagos, you become a master of problem solving. You predict roadblocks. You learn human behavior. You know how to stretch every liter of fuel and every hour in a day. The room grew quiet. I may not have your degrees, but I have instincts that money can't buy. He paused, then turned to Arthur. Sir, all I ask for is one project. One chance. If I fail, I'll resign quietly. But if I succeed, I want a permanent seat at this table. Arthur leaned back, impressed. But it wasn't Arthur's reaction that mattered. It was the shift in the room. For the first time, the suits were listening. 2 days later, project brief. Operation Inner City Connect. Arthur handed Andrew a file. Here's your test. It was a pilot plan to solve a major delivery delay in mainland Lagos, where traffic choked the roads, and most competitors refused to operate efficiently. Andrew smiled. I used to live in every street listed here. Arthur clapped him on the back. Then you're the right man for the job. With a small team and limited resources, Andrew went to work. He hired local riders, trained them on route optimization, introduced a hub-and-spoke model inspired by Keek union coordination. He even partnered with small kiosk owners to serve as mini distribution centers. In 1 month, delivery turnaround time in the target area dropped by 57%. Customer satisfaction soared. Word spread fast. And the competitors? They panicked. Boardroom 1 month later. Arthur stood at the head of the table again. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the results of Operation Inner City Connect, led by Mr. Andrew Okichukwu. He clicked a remote. Slides filled the screen. Charts, growth, testimonials, even praise from media outlets, who once criticized Andrew's appointment. When it ended, silence held the room. Then Ifeoma clapped. Then another. And another. Until everyone, even Charles, stood and applauded. Arthur smiled proudly and turned to Andrew. You didn't just pass the test. You redefined what it means to be qualified. Later that evening, Arthur's home. The sun dipped into the ocean as Arthur and Andrew stood on the balcony, sipping malt drinks. You remember that time you helped me memorize Macbeth by rapping it? Arthur laughed. Andrew chuckled. Out, brief candle. Life's a walking shadow, men. They laughed hard, the kind of laugh that frees your lungs. Then Arthur turned serious. Andrew, the truth is, I needed this moment as much as you did. Andrew raised a brow. How? Because all my life, I've been surrounded by people who wanted what I had, but not many who remembered who I was before I had it. You remind me where I came from. Andrew smiled. And you remind me where I can still go. 2 weeks later, new apartment, Lekki. Andrew unlocked the door to his new 3-bedroom apartment. His kids ran in screaming with joy. His wife stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. From a dusty corner in a jegunal to marble floors and a stocked fridge. The journey had been fast, but not undeserved. On the living room table lay a frame with a simple quote. When you help someone climb, you may just lift yourself higher than you ever imagined. Andrew got his seat at the table. Arthur got back a friend who remembered his roots. And the boardroom? They gained something far rarer than experience. Perspective.